Greetings, family. Welcome to Tony's Barbershop, and we have a hero in the community who, I shall put this, a mess has become a message, you know, and she'll be sharing the whole thing about, domestic violence, and she'll be, sharing her message to empower women in the community who's gone through certain challenges. Her name is Filecity. Always the right. Tell people your name, my sister. Yeah.
My name is Filecity Okolo.
Felicity Okolo.
Felicity Okolo.
That's the right progression of her name. And first, sister, we really want to welcome you inside the house because I've heard your journey, and it's very touching journey, and it's a journey where I feel that it needs to be told, and the purpose behind it is to let many women who probably, I use the word, strangle in that kind of situation hold over them. That expect them to let go, and there's hope. There's no hope. There's according to will. There's a way. So the first thing I asked my sister, where did it all start from? Your whole thing with domestic violence, and give us a little insight. What happened?
This all began over 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Over 20 years ago, back in Nigeria. I was 19 years old, and my secondary school teacher. I was in university actually. My secondary school teacher. I shared a taxi with her, and she then told me she wants to speak with me later. So I went to see her in the house a few weeks later, and apparently her brother lived in England, London. He wanted a wife, and my ex-secondary school teacher, or former secondary school teacher, wanted me to be put forward to become his wife. And I said that was a terrible idea because I didn't know him. I've never met him. I only knew her. She believed she was my teacher. She knew me so well, and she knew my family, and I was a good girl. So she wanted me to be the perfect wife. I said no. My family thought it was a good idea, and within 6 months of this happening, I was in London. I married this man that I didn't want to marry, so it was kind of arranged marriage. Got over to London. Within 3 months of coming to London, I had my first baby because I was pregnant from Nigeria. Had my first baby, and within 3 months, he physically abused me so bad that I couldn't move. I was on the floor. We had lodgers in the house that helped me up. I couldn't move. And prior to that, the abuse kind of began just maybe when I was 3 months old in the country. It was name calling. It was, you are lazy, you don't clean the house on time. I was pregnant, and I was isolated in the country. I didn't have friends. I couldn't go out. I couldn't even go to church. He wouldn't let me go to church because that's his own way of controlling, which I didn't know. So I thought, okay, in a strange country with somebody I hardly knew, I was getting to know him, even getting to love him, to see if this marriage would work because I'm a Catholic.
Okay.
I was Catholic.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still Catholic. I'm
Yeah.
a Catholic girl, and from a good background, a good home. I wanted to please my parents. I wanted to please the church, and so I stayed. When it got physical, when the baby was 3 months old, I didn't know what to do. So I told my parents. Called Nigeria. I told them this is what is happening here. I'm not happy. I didn't grow up in a violent home. I don't like this. My father knew I was strongly against violence. Anyway, my father said to come home if I wasn't happy in the marriage. But then I thought to myself, I'm not sure my father was serious,
What, to come home?
Yeah, for me to come back home. I thought he's not serious, because him to be quick to say come home, I felt that in a way it's like opposite, it's a reverse psychology was using on me to see if I was going to really come. And I said to myself, all right, this is the first physical incident. As of then, I didn't know domestic violence included name calling, emotional and mental abuse. I didn't know it had all that. So I decided to stay because I was still promised, this man still promised was going to wed me in the church, and I was thinking, how could I leave? I have a baby now. What will the church think of me?
Okay.
What would friends and family think of me back home?
Right.
You know, what about me? So the shame was there, which a lot of women feel. The shame, the stigma of living in your home, of husband when you're there, and then with a baby. So I stuck around. Before I knew it, when the baby was 10 months old, he asked me to get pregnant again with second baby. So it was forced pregnancy. I didn't want to get pregnant at that time. I obeyed because he said to me, if I don't get pregnant when he wanted me to be pregnant, I'll be in trouble. Basically, I didn't want to be beaten up again. So I had to go get pregnant, take off my contraceptive and got pregnant again. And the abusing continued because domestic violence is much higher during pregnancy or when a new baby is born.
Why is that? What do you think? What could the reason was that?
There could be many reasons. You know, I was saying I really want to ask some abusers themselves to find out why they do it. But there are many reasons why we've come to the conclusion that it could be make it higher during pregnancy when the baby is around. One of them could be that the man feels jealous, that your attention will be divided. With the new baby now, you pay more attention to the new baby than to him. And also, second thing could be, you're not fully available for sex like you want you to be. It's like when the baby is born, you can have sex with him at that for a few weeks, even a month or so. They don't like that. And when you're pregnant as well, you're not readily available for sex as well. So that's another second reason. Third reason is he feels that maybe you're trying to trap him. Maybe the pregnancy is not planned. He thinks that you're trying to trap him. Fourth reason could be that the cost of feeding somebody else. Because bringing a child into the world, you have to think about feeding them, clothing them, extra expenses. You might begin to feel a pressure. And a lot of women demand certain kind of foods when they are pregnant. So this could all be pressure mounting upon the man while they begin to behave differently. And then there's a hormone things flying about as well with the woman. That the man may not like her mood swing or mood changes.
Right.
So there are several things, like I talked about 4 or 5 now, that could be reasons why domestic violence is much higher, but still we can't say for sure exactly. But these are factors we think makes them much higher.
I mean, it's quite interesting because, you know, you can understand why people get upset with each other, you know, tempers fly and so forth. But when it comes to actually physically abusing and try to control, you know, that takes on a different kind of mindset, and you try to go into that person's mind what they want to do there. And from what little I do know, when people behave that way, it's because they've been abused themselves. And yeah,
that is
that's
a contributory factor, because a lot of children witnesses, there's children who were abused as children in their homes, or who witnessed their parents, either the mom being beaten up or the father tolerating violence from their mom. A lot of them end up being abusers or victims. But some not necessarily, because in my own case, as I later found out, he was abused by his father. Okay, he was being beaten up several times, and he then said to my daughter later that whenever she's crying, because my daughter grew up and wanted to go and live with him after we moved out, and he would beat her up. And so when she starts crying, he will start crying. I said to her that she cry reminds him of him when he was a teenager, when his father used to beat him up. And when his father wasn't around, his mom will ask his elder brother to beat him on her behalf. This is their way of discipline, and that's not really how to discipline, because people confuse discipline for punishment. Discipline is to teach somebody, how to behave correctly, not to punish them. And I understand the saying, spare the rod and spoil the child. I understand a little smacking every now and then, but when it gets out of control, it means that becomes abuse. That's no longer trying to correct the child, by little smacking, because sometimes because I smacked my children when it was absolutely necessary, you know, but not to get to the level of abusing them or smacking them because you are angry. That is abuse. That is abuse. So that is the difference. That so not all cases, that not all children witnesses or children victims of domestic violence become abusers themselves or victims.
Well, in fact, remember we was having a discussion with Charlie, and she said that when she witnessed her mum being abused by her father, she made a decision that no man's gonna abuse her.
That is so true. Only few people are able to do. Well, a lot of people are able to do that if they really want to. You have to make a conscious decision, like I said in the radio last time with Shoshani. She was a child witness, and she decided that no man will abuse her. So it is good for people who are children in such an environment to actually make a conscious decision that they will never be abused or become abusers themselves. That way, at that early age, they begin to say it, then it gets into their subconscious mind, and then the universe and them themselves will begin to attract things and people that will make that possible for them.
That's right.
So they will be abused or become abusers themselves. And that is why I left at an early age or early stage in my relationship with my ex-husband, because I left when then I have 3 children with this man. My children, when I left, were 5 months old. The youngest was 5 months old. Then my daughter was 2 years old. My eldest was 3.5 years old. So I didn't want to raise my children in a violent environment. I didn't want them to witness abuse. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want them to be abused because I knew the abuse would definitely transfer onto the children later. So I didn't want that to happen, and that is why I left really early.
What was the final decision to leave? What was the main reason why you left? What was the main, how come you left?
2 main reasons. For my safety and for my children's safety, that's number 1. Second reason is I wanted to be happy and alive. I wanted to be happy and have a good marriage. And that wasn't going to happen in that relationship.
Because you reached a breaking point, really. You just under that stress, suicidal.
Yes, because when after having the second baby, the abuse still continued. I didn't even know. I think after having the second baby, that is when I watched Oprah on TV, because I didn't have friends, wouldn't let me go out. I couldn't go anywhere. So mostly what I was doing was watch TV. And even then, he cut off the TV cable because he claimed I was watching too much TV. It was through watching Oprah that I knew about domestic violence. I could not believe that domestic violence existed, and it had a name. I didn't know. So watching people talk about domestic violence on Oprah Winfrey show, I was amazed. I said, oh my God, I thought this was just happening to me. This man from Africa, because I see men from Africa beat up their wives back home in Nigeria and the rest of it. I thought it was him behaving badly in London. And they mentioned that the police could help you. You're not on your own. Report it.
So you didn't have no insight into
I didn't know about it at all. So when I watched that show, I felt, okay, this is good. Now that I have this information, what am I going to do with it? So when he came home and threatened violence, I said to him that I know the police can help me. You couldn't isolate me any longer. If you abuse me one more time, I'm going to call the police. And then this man said to me that the British law has no jurisdiction in his house. Trust me, it's like.
So was he a very cold man? Very. The person I get he was very cold, very.
The thing is, Dougie, a lot of men who abuse women are very nice people outside.
Okay.
You wouldn't know.
Okay.
And that is why it's hard for a lot of women who are being abused to actually report it or admit to it, because their husbands are so nice outside or they have a high position. And it's like when they speak about it, they feel that people won't believe them. But trust me, dude, even if your husband is a president, talk about domestic violence. Do not keep it to yourself. For sure, because those men are so clever. Now, you are the victim. You are the ashamed. You are the everything. Why? No, there's no reason for that. if those men should be the ones to feel the shame because they are doing something wrong. There are ways of handling a conflict without resorting to violence.
Yeah, because what you're saying really that they need some kind of counseling, some kind of help. Really.
They need help.
Need help, yeah.
But a lot of them will not admit they need help.
It's got a mask.
No, they will not admit they need help. To them it's okay. Do you know domestic violence? Let me just explain what domestic violence is all about. The definition of domestic violence is domestic violence. It is also called domestic abuse, battery, or intimate partner violence. It's a pattern of controlling and aggressive behaviors for one adult towards another in the context of an intimate relationship. It can be physical, it can be emotional, it could be psychological, even social isolation and financial abuse. Financial abuse are also part of domestic violence. Name calling, all these little things, you know, they're all domestic violence. And now domestic violence is not just for one partner in an intimate relationship to the other. It could be parents to a child. It could be in-law to son-in-law to mother-in-law. It could be to a stepchild. It could be a step-parent. It could be anything. They're all domestic violence. You know, all this. And like I said, those men hide behind being nice because my health visitor, remember when I had my first baby, my health visitor introduced me to a lady, a pastor's wife who lived a few doors away from me. For me to befriend her so that I can have company, someone to talk about having a child, a new mom. The very first day this lady came to visit me, my ex was in the house then. He didn't like it. As soon as she left, he went, who is she? What does she do? What does she want? What do you talk about? Blah. It's like questioning me. And I told him all that I knew about this lady. I didn't even know where she lived. I just knew her. I was told her address. I didn't know. I've never been to her house. So 2 weeks later, she came to the house again. As God will have it, this man was at home. She didn't stay 15 minutes because she could tell that the tension in the house was so bad. She wasn't welcome. She very quickly left with her baby. And this man sat me down, got a piece of paper and a pen, and began to write. He wrote about half a paragraph, half a page of A4 paper, and then got another piece of paper, gave me a pen, asked me to sit down. He said, copy it. He made me copy what he had written in my own handwriting. What was in there was, dear blah, the lady's name, you coming to my house is making is causing problems between me and my husband. My husband doesn't like you coming to my house. It's distressful. Stop coming to my house. Blah blah blah. I was copying this dog. I was crying because I cannot believe what would happen. I was just thinking, what will the husband of this woman say? Reading this coming from somebody else, you know. So I finished writing while tears were flowing. He picked up the paper, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, went outside and posted it. Next day, my health visitor came, or 2 days later, my health visitor came to visit me, and she told me that she knew about the incident. I said to her, please, 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 beg this lady on my behalf that there was no way I could write such a letter. It wasn't me. She said, there's no need for you to apologize because there's no way you could do such a thing. I know it's your husband who made you do this. So that was the end of the friendship before it began.
Yes.
So, and a few months later, my ex came home and said to me, oh, I saw your friend at the bus stop the other day. Actually, I helped her put her pushchair in the bus. You see what he's trying to do? He's trying to play the nice guy to her, to make me look like a bad person. Then I said to him, who do you think you are kidding? She already knows that it wasn't me who wrote the letter. You know, I just copied in my writing because you forced me to do that. But she knows it was you. So there's no need trying to pretend here that you're a good person. You're not a good person. That's, you know, he was caught at, then he stopped laughing because he was smiling, trying to make me feel guilty. I said, no, that won't work. So coming back to, you know, that is how he tries to be nice outside. And a lot of men who abuse us try to be nice outside, so you wouldn't know that they abuse their people. Once they get into the car or into a private environment with their partners, things just change. It's like,
change.
who are you talking to? How can she was smiling so much that this man, anything could just bring up an argument. You didn't clean the house on time. How could I, when I was, for 4 years I lived with this man, I had 3 children. So every year I was either pregnant or I had a new baby.
Okay.
So, and I was a young kid. I was a young woman, I didn't know anything, and
so it's very confusing.
it was, yeah, so I could not satisfy the children and him and the house and the tenants we had in the property, because I had to clean up after tenants in the property as well and look after my young self. It was a lot, but now I'm depressed, I was suicidal, as everything. But one night when he threatened to kill me, I just ran out of the house. I thought, it's enough, it's enough. You know, and that's how I decided I'm never going back to their house. And I stayed that long because of my confusion and because of the stigma I felt attached to me, and because a lot of people, women especially, don't want to leave because they feel the stigma of being a lone parent. They don't like it, or they feel shame because of their tradition, or their family, or their religion, or anything, or they have immigration problem because then I had just 6 months visa to come to the UK to join my then husband. But for 4 years, my visa was long expired. So it's like I had a lot of things keeping me there. But I knew deep in my heart, I wanted a good, happy home. And when my life was threatened several times, especially that night, I knew I had to choose. Do I want to live? Or do I want to live with stigma? Or do I want to remain there and be killed so that I don't have the stigma of being a lone parent, or I didn't worry about my religion, what people would say, what my parents would say. My survival instinct kicked in because I knew I didn't give a damn what anybody thinks about me at this stage. I wanted to be alive. That's why I left.
In terms of the book, how do you get to write the book now? How did that book come about?
My book, when I left, and years had then passed, it took me about 9 years to recover, because on average, a woman spends 7 years in a domestic violence relationship. And that is very bad, because the longer you stay in such relationship, the harder it is for you to recover. So I spent 4.5 years with this man. So it took me 9 years to recover. And in the 9 years, because I was a very determined person, I had no support. I didn't know about Refugee Charity or Women's Aid or any other charity organization. All I had was counseling. And I did most of my recovery on my own. It was really painful and hard. And I was going to university because I wanted to have a means to support myself and my children. Money is another factor that keeps women down in the relationship, because they're worried about how to care for their family and themselves when they leave.
I'm just saying, when you was going through, your recovery, were you talking to other female about your experience, or you just kept it to yourself?
No. For me, when people ask, how are the children fine, and how's your husband, I tell them I don't have a husband. He abused me and I left. So I never ever try to hide my story. To anybody who asks or who wants to listen, I tell. So I didn't think there was a stigma to it. To me, it was nothing. It was nothing. I felt anything bad should be exposed. Yeah, very strongly. But I told people about my story. I didn't hide it at all. And that did help me, because the more I talked about it, it's like I'm free from it. I release bit each time I talk about it. I'm letting it go. So it's not holding me down, because the more women hold that back, try to bury it, basically you are still sinking, because there's something there so painful that you're hiding, which you need to let out. If you don't let it out, it can kill you. Can kill you. So it is really vital for women to talk about it, let it out, get help, get counseling, and be free of it. So after 9 years, I was able to I decided I need to forgive, because surviving it is one thing, or moving away from the environment is another thing, but actually now forgiving the abuser is the best part of it. The best part in the sense that you now reclaim yourself, your life. This is what I call conquering domestic violence. Forgiving the abuser is conquering domestic violence. Now you've conquered it, you've reclaimed your life, your whole life, because when you forgive and let go, you are not able to move forward in your own life. You're not able to love another man totally without reservation. Because if you love and reserve some, basically you wouldn't get as much as you want because you're not giving your all. And that still holds you back because each time you see him, you frown. There's a pain that comes into play.
Yeah, because I mean, it's quite interesting you said that because I was listening to our program with Vanessa Phelps, one on the BBC radio, and talking about the whole thing about forgiveness. And people was phoning saying that, you know, for them to move on, they have to let go or forgive.
Sure.
Because they've been abused and rape and all kind of stuff has happened to them. But she couldn't understand where they're coming from, but I could understand because for them to move on, they have to forgive.
You need to.
You need to forgive.
It's not easy.
It's not
Forgiveness
easy,
is not
but it's
easy.
all part of the healing and moving forward. Yeah.
Definitely, forgiveness has 3 steps. Like I teach people, forgiveness. First, you need to honor the pain of the journey.
Okay.
You need to acknowledge this pain.
Okay.
Deal with them through counseling. That's another help. Secondly, you need to know reasons why you want to forgive. And then thirdly, before you forgive, and forgiveness,
yeah, you need to know the reason why.
Why do you want to forgive? You want to forgive just because forgiveness is a thing somebody has told you have to do,
right.
or because you know you really must forgive for your own good, for your own health as well. Because if you hold pain, if you hold grievance or grudge against somebody, hatred can cause some form of cancer. You feel pain. It's like, how to describe this to you right now is if now you need to move out of this space and I stand in front of you, you couldn't go, but I couldn't move either. I couldn't go anywhere. You understand? It's like there's a saying in my language that says, he who holds somebody else is actually holding himself down. So basically, if you don't forgive and let go, you are still holding yourself down. But when you release and forgive and move on, then you're truly free now to move on in your own life and attract the good coming to you. Because forgiveness from grudge actually forms a block between you and your good.
No, it is definitely a block. And you see, and you're right that you need to understand why you're forgiving, because that will determine what you're forgiving the person for, and for you to move on to another level. Because that is, to me, is the hurdle for a lot of people, because people do hold to all this emotional baggage and trauma, what's happened to them, and it's not something, it's just true, but somehow you have to see what it is, because it is a journey, right? And it's part of a learning journey, and it's for you to look at that journey, right? And at the same time let go, because once you hold on to all this stuff here, it's like a cancer, and it just
it begins to eat you up.
Eat you up, yeah.
It begins to eat you up.
Eat you up.
Yeah. So after I finished, I went to university, got my degree, began working, and the rest of it. Fast forward, I worked in IT for a while and decided I wanted to work with people. After my business advice, I discovered my skill of working with people. People enjoyed listening to me and teaching them. And besides, I was coaching other women who have been through what I've been through without doing it as a job. It was just like help them, because I was a much stronger person. I'm not strong physically, as you can see. I couldn't fight anyone. I know I couldn't fight anyone. But mentally and emotionally, I'm a very strong person. So I could deal with things better, much better than other women I've seen where I lived. So I was counseling them and showing them strategies to use that I use that helped me, how to overcome abuse and how to raise their children without feeling exhausted and without the children becoming statistics, because a lot of lone parent family, the children have been known to, according to statistics, badly behaved, especially if you're black, and I've got 2 boys. So I decided, my children will never be statistics in the community. They've never been in trouble, took hard work. So I was counseling other women to show them how to raise their children to be like that as well. And my children were kind of role models to their children. They come and hang out with my sons to copy their behavior. They're not perfect, but they're very good children. They're perfect in my own definition of perfect. Yeah. So then I had to go and train to be a coach. when I saw what I was doing, how I was helping people, I tried to be a coach, and from there I tried to be a speaker. And after that, I wanted to write books, message what I was teaching people. I wanted to put it into an easy way to reach more people, and that was through books and making CDs. So I read my book, and then a friend of mine said to me, you know, you have this story of your life, and you're not ashamed of talking about it. There's so many women out there who benefit from it as well. How about doing something? So I decided, okay, I'll write a book on it, on my story. And that is how this book came about. The book is called It Is My Life and I'm in Charge. And so I call it this because I wanted all women who see this book or read it to learn from my mistakes and my courage, to be motivated to take action in their lives, and because it is possible for you to be, do, and have whatever you want in life. As long as you have the, I would say, get help, the correct awareness and knowledge. It's hard work, but it is doable. Look at me. I didn't have a green card or the right immigration papers to be in the UK. But believe you, as God will have it, do you know, Douglas, I got my residence in this country before my abuser.
Yeah?
Yes. I did. Because I believe in divine. I believe in God so much that I didn't even know how I come to be in this world. So I believe in that higher power to look after me. I knew my church wouldn't abandon me somehow deep down, even though probably I will be judged for a while. But I said, you know, even if the church judges me, even my family judges me, or people put stigma or call me names, whatever, I know in my heart I've done no wrong to deserve what I'm getting. I know that God will find a way to make things better for me. It was hard, but look at me now. And, I am happily remarried. I'm happily remarried to a very happy, loving man. Is probably the best husband in the world I have. I love my children totally, and he adores me, and that's what I want.
Where did you meet him from?
I met him in London here.
Okay then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've been together for 6 years now.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
And the more I get to know you, is that I can see you've come from a very academic kind of background. You seem to be very ambitious in terms of but one ambition was to go to
university.
And that's because of back home in Nigeria.
Back home, I was just getting to university actually, doing my foundation to university there when he came to marry me. So he promised that I would continue my education, promised to wed me in the church, promised everything. You know, when I came here, it was time to fulfill these promises. He said to me, not all promises made to a woman before marriage are necessarily fulfilled. It's like I fell flat on my face thinking, now here I am alone. No family, no friends, no one. I knew no one except a cousin to a friend in Nigeria.
Right.
And that happened before I left Nigeria. This man said to me, we don't know what's going to happen, but just in case, here is the phone number of my cousin in London. Here, this is her name, this is her phone number. When you get there, just call her and say, introduce yourself to her. And when I got the first few months in London, that's what I did. So my then husband helped me call her up, went to see her. She got to know me. That woman now is my mom. In London.
Okay.
She's my mom in London. I've got 2 moms in London. Actually, I've got 3 moms. My biological mom, this lady, my mom, her name is Kate. I call her my auntie, but she's really my mom. And another lady, my neighbor, they all were moms to me.
Yeah.
When I needed mom to be there, because when I left my abuser, my parents abandoned me. They weren't happy. I didn't speak to my parents for 3 years.
That's another story we need to look into, really. No, seriously, that's another story, because we need to look at that as well. But I raised a point last time in terms of accountability, and after listening to the response, I could see where people are coming from, because they were saying that we don't have that now, so it's, we don't need to focus too much on that. But I just want to bring it up, because the reason why I'm bringing this point about accountability is that when there is that kind of accountability in the community, or in a group or in an organization that if someone misbehave, you know, or out of character or going for foolishness, and you know, that if he's accountable to a group of people, right, you know, he's answerable to. So the point I'm trying to make is that one of the things I feel that, you know, when we're talking about a community or talk about even a family structure, you know, there has to be accountability.
The thing is, because we were here and most of his family is also back home in Nigeria. Although there is a community in London here, like his town's meeting, where he can interact with other people from his village or his hometown, which he didn't bother being part of them. And I didn't know about people from my own village or my hometown. I couldn't be part of them. I was actually going to be part of his one, so I wasn't introduced, so I didn't know they existed. But I knew I was introduced to a cousin of his, this couple, who are his cousin. And they were the only family that I knew. So whenever he will treat me badly, I will call him up and kind of report him. That's after I've spoken with him, try to make things work, and it wouldn't work. It's like, if we have an argument, he wouldn't buy food, Douglas. I'll be hungry. So I said to him, if you don't buy food, I'm going to call your cousins to buy me food. I wouldn't call my auntie, because that would be like, she's my relative, you know, this lady that I've just met. But I was still, I'm going to call your own family. That way you wouldn't see it as, you know, I'm going for my family. I will call them and they will tell him off. He might be here for a week or two and then go back to his old ways.
But there wasn't really no...
So basically they tried in a way to make him accountable.
But,
they tried, they did their own bit.
But you used the word try because there was no accountability.
Well, no, what he used to say to me is like, they don't feed him, so they have no right to tell him what to do.
Yeah, well, there was no accountability.
There was no, because he didn't belong to any community at all.
So the point I'm trying to make is that there has to be that kind of accountability.
But he didn't belong to any community.
Yeah, that's right. So what I want to do, because you know this is an ongoing session here, you know, we definitely go on and on. But the final word would be now. What would the final message you'd like to give to the to women who are out there being abused? Final message.
The message is women victims. You could be in there. You could be thinking, I'm staying because of my children. No, you're damaging the children. You want to be role models for children. You stay, the longer you stay, the worse the children are affected. There's a friend of mine who's been in a relationship for 21 years. She just left. But she just asked the man to leave just a few weeks ago. She basically stayed because of her children. But this violence that wasn't transferred onto her children, to the extent where her daughter moved out and said to her, Mommy, I'm never coming back to this house as long as that man is in the house.
Okay.
So it's basically you need to take action for your own safety, for your children's safety, to get out. Get out and have a good life, because it's possible for you to do that. And my book actually will also help you. And you can contact me from my website, felicityokola.com. I have a free newsletter which you can sign up to, where I teach you and send you tips on how to survive, cope, and conquer domestic violence, and how to move on with your life and become successful in anything you want to be, do, and have. It's possible to do that. That's my message to most victims there. There's help out there. There's refuge charity. There's women's aid. There's information out there online, both offline and online, to help you. So get help, and I can help you as well.
Okay. So again, we had Felicity inside the host. Felicity inside the host. And it was really good to have her here to share her journey. And again, you know, we give thanks to Brother Tony, and we're here to empower the community by any means necessary. So give thanks.
Thank you.